Hi everyone, in this video I'm wanting to do a quick test to see what is sharper. My new Nikon 70-200mm f2.8 VR lens, or this really cheap £200 second-hand Nikon 105mm f2.8 macro lens. I don't know which one's going to be sharper, and I don't really care actually, which is a bit strange, because I know they're both super sharp. But this is just for all you pixel peepers out there to see which one is sharper. What I'm doing a photo of is this image here. So I've got Mr. Hippo sitting in front of one of my books, and I've got the camera set up over here with the lens pointing straight towards Mr. Hippo. At the moment I've got it on live view, and as you can see we've got Mr. Hippo over in the left hand corner where the cross goes just over his eye, and the book is at the end of the right hand side. And I've got this so it is at 105mm as well, so it's the same focal length as the macro lens. So let's see what at different apertures, which one is sharper. Oh, the other thing is taking the vibration reduction system off the 70-200. That's because seemingly if you have it on whenever it's on a tripod, it might actually make it a little bit blurry. So tripod, vibration reduction off because it's on a tripod. One thing, extra thing I'm going to do is actually increase the shutter exposure delay mode so that it opens the shutter and then about a second later it then takes a photo. So this is what it looks like. So if you go into the menu at the back, let's see if we can just make it a little bit sharper there. You can see shooting and display. If you go into that and then you go down a couple bits, exposure delay mode, click that so it's okay. Listen to this. So you hear it open first and then it takes a photo. And then the photo is taken after. So that is the exposure delay mode. Now let's go see the photos now. Okay, so that was the first 3 shots, shooting straight down onto Mr. Hippo. Made sure that the white balance was the same. It's at this, fluorescent incandescent lights. And it is a fairly slow shutter speed, 125th of a second. This time we're now going with the macro lens. Okay, that's 3 photos taken, one with each lens. Let's go look at them on the computer. What we will notice initially is that there's a slight difference in the position of the photo, and that's because when the camera's got the 100mm lens on, is attached at the camera. Whenever the 200mm lens is on, it's attached by the lens. So there's a slight difference in where the camera position is to where Mr. Hippo is. But let's look at the shots on the computer now. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got the 6 photos which I took, which you saw me take the videos of there. And on the top ones here, on Lightroom, you can see all the details at this side when you're in the library part. If I just zoom out a little bit there. So ISO 800 and the 105mm, 105 and the 105, changing the apertures. And then down below you've got the 70-200, again at 105mm at ISO 800. And ISO 1600 and change the apertures up to there. Okay, so what we can do is we can select the ones which we want to look at. So let's say, well, let's get rid of the other ones at the moment. So here are the 2 shots. These were shot on the left. That is the 105mm f2.8 macro lens, and on the right we've got it with the Nikon 70-200mm f2.8 telephoto lens. These are both shot at f2.8 at 125th of a second and ISO 800. And just looking straight at it, well, obviously there's a slight difference of where the photos were taken, because with the 72mm lens, the actual camera is a little bit further, and you can see that in the detail here where it says subject distance 2.5 meters. Meanwhile, on the macro lens, it was 2.37 meters. So the actual back of the camera is just that little fraction closer to the subject. I don't think it'll have that much of an effect when you're at 2.5 meters away. But straight away, I can definitely see there is a difference in the images here. I don't know which one is better, but I can definitely say there is something different. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to zoom in. So let's click on this one first. So if we go straight into the eyes, and let's go, so we've got his ears are at the top and his nose is at the bottom. Okay, that to me, we're at beyond, what's that? That is hugely zoomed in. Let's just check. If we go to develop, we can decide how much we zoom in. So if we go to 1:1, here, okay, this is a much kind of better idea. Let's say we have that corner bit up in the corner there. Okay, so there is looking very sharp. Around the eyes is looking good. You can see there's a little bit of red there. That's because we've got the highlight and the low light tone bits on. So let's just take both of them off. Yeah, so that's looking good. Into the face. Get him into the corner. That's good. Let's go with the, this is with the 70 to 200mm lens. Okay, and can I see a difference? Oh, well, yes, definitely. This one, let's just double check. The macro is definitely sharper at f2.8 and 125th of a second. You can see all around his nose is much kind of, that's all sharp. His eyes are sharp and his head's sharp. Let's see with the 70 to 200. Oh, well, actually, no. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, if you were to look really carefully at the little bits of fluff on the top of his head, that's it with the macro, that's it with the 70 to 200. So the 70 to 200 looks a little bit sharper, but let's see if we look at his nose, macro, oh no, that's the macro, that's some. Okay, so what it really looks like is that there's a fraction, tiny little bit of a focus difference. And obviously at f2.8 and 100mm, there's obviously is just such a tiny, like the focus or the area of perfect focus is probably just about that much of him, from maybe the middle of his nose to the middle of his head. So that is probably what the difference is there. So, right, okay, telling whether it's sharp or not is difficult if there's going to be that tiny amount of focus difference. Let's see if we can see anything else, like for example, yeah, okay, if we're looking up at this is an area of high contrast where we've got black and white. And here you can see there's quite a lot of chromatic aberration, which is this green goo. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's pink, purple, whatever. In fact, at this bit you can see there's pink, green. In fact, there's nothing there that is black. Now that's the macro lens. If we move it to the 70 to 200 lens, it's looking a good bit better. Macro, 70 to 200. Macro, 70 to 200. Okay, so for the out of focus stuff, let's look at the hopping bit. Yeah, it just looks so much better with the 70 to 200. Okay, so sharpness wise, I'd have to say I can't quite tell which one is sharper because there is this tiny little change in the focus distance. But in terms of chromatic aberration, I would say definitely the 70 to 200 rocks out there. Let's see if we, for example, the peripheral, if you have any natural vignetting, that's the, wait, what are we in with? We're 70 to 200. And if we go into the corner with the 100, I'm not really seeing any vignetting going on there. There's a slight colour difference. Oh, it's pretty difficult to tell. It looks like that one's a wee bit more warm toned, maybe that's a wee bit more purpley toned. Oh, that, do you know what, that could even just be the difference in temperature of the actual light, because that's one of those energy saving lights, so maybe it's just got warmer over the time that I've been taking the photos. So, okay, tough one to really gauge a difference there. Let's look at the next shots. So I stopped it down by one stop, down to from f2.8 to f4. And let's see if we got both the same here. So, and I changed the ISO. I put that up to 1600, so that should effectively be the same exposure. Okay, yeah, settings all exactly the same. Again, let's go zoom in onto Mr. Hippo's face. Now, just now we are with the 70-200, and that is looking very good. Again, it's still his nose, so even at f4, his nose is kind of blurry, but the back of his head is looking really, really sharp again. Let's say we go to the macro. Now the macro, yeah, definitely, so the back of his head is a little bit blurry, but his nose is looking sharp. Okay, sorry guys, but I think it's difficult to tell because there's obviously the height of the lens was changed because of the adapter and all that kind of stuff. So maybe it's just a millimeter fraction focus difference. But let's again look up at the chromatic aberration. Let's say we're looking closely here. Yeah, so definitely that's the macro lens, and with the 7200 much crisper there as well. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Okay, let's go to the last one. So this is at f5.6, so that is effectively 2 stops down. And so here, yeah, it's at ISO 1600, so it's the same ISO as the last one. So effectively, this should be 1 stop down in brightness, and it's at f5.6. And there's definitely a big difference in the exposure here, like a huge difference. Almost, wow. Okay, that's I wasn't expecting that. Okay, so the nickel. Let's wait. I'll just double check. I haven't done any settings changed or anything. No, exactly the same. Okay, kind of confused about that. It almost looks like the macro lens hasn't actually changed anything. Wait, let's just say we go for the macro where it was. Here it was. So there should be a whole stop difference in brightness. Okay, so going from f4 to f5.6 in the macro, that's the colour difference. So that's obviously f4 brighter, that's f5.6. Which seems to be also just like a huge colour difference as well. Obviously it's letting more of that light in at the side, so that's interesting. But yeah, okay, so yeah, a little bit of a difference there. And let's see what the exposure difference at f4 to f5.6 is with the 70-200mm lens. Much bigger difference there. Okay, that'll be an interesting thing to see. That's where you need somebody to really test the difference to see if an aperture size is the same on every lens. So maybe going from f4 to f5.6 on a 70-200mm lens isn't the same as going from that on a 100mm lens. Very strange. Okay, but anyway, let's go back to just looking at the 2 actual photos here, and let's zoom in. So here, this is, what's this? This is the 100mm lens, and he's looking good, he's looking sharp. There's still chromatic aberration up there, even when you've stopped it down by 2 stops. And with the 70-200, no chromatic aberration whatsoever. And Mr. Hippo's looking super sharp front to back as well there. Maybe his leg is a little bit out of focus. It's probably just out there. But yeah, so if we were to look at the actual brightness difference. Huge. Okay, baffled me, totally changed me. None of the camera settings changed at all either there. So, in conclusion to this little test I've done here, what I would say is definitely that the 70-200mm lens is probably as sharp as the Nikon 105mm macro lens. But where it's even better is the fact that it has much less chromatic aberration. And chromatic aberration can definitely make your images look a lot more blurry, softer, and just not as sharp if it gets a little bit out of control, if you're in a very high contrast situation. So yeah, well done with the 70-200. I would say that one definitely just won, but there's something different about how dark it goes when you change it with 1 stop. Like if you look at the top 3 pictures there barely looks to be any difference between the 3 of them. Meanwhile, the left and these 2 are meant to be a whole stop different. Meanwhile, at the bottom, this one's obviously, that's the f5.6 and that's the f4. You can see there's definitely a huge difference there. But up here, Makes me wonder if the macro lens is actually stopping down correctly. Or enough. I don't know. Tell me, have you ever experienced that where you've maybe had the same settings on same lenses, but they've come out with different exposures that you've come out afterwards? Let me know. Okay, I hope that helps. Cheers, bye-bye.